In today's lesson, we're going to be going over section R3, which is real number operations and properties. So please be sure to label this at the top of your paper. And we're going to start with absolute value. So our first one, absolute value have specific bar lines straight up and down next to each side of some sort of expression or a number. So what happens is anything that is inside an absolute value sign, it has to only be one number, but it turns out positive. So with absolute value, one thing on the inside of those two vertical brackets turn positive. So for our first example, let's go ahead and write this down. Problem number 1, we're going to take the absolute value of negative 5/8. So the absolute value of negative 5/8 becomes, the final answer is just positive 5/8. For problem number 2, our next example, we're going to have a negative sign on the outside of the absolute value of 8. And so what's going to happen is that term on the inside, which is 8, that comes out. It's still positive. It's always going to be positive, but we're just going to drop down that negative sign. So our final answer happens to be negative 8 without the brackets. Number 3, we're going to have negative and an absolute value of negative 8. So again, one number on the inside turns positive. So we've got 8, and then I'm just going to drop down the negative sign. So it's negative 8 is our final answer. Problem number 4, we were to have the absolute value of 2 pi. Pi is a number, right? It's 3.14. However, we use it as also kind of like a variable. It just kind of carries down with the number that's right next to it. So this whole thing is positive. 2 is already positive. This whole term just becomes positive 2 pi. Now, when I keep talking about one thing comes out of the absolute value, for example, if we have something like the absolute value of 2 minus 7, it's not going to be 2 and then take the negative 7 to make it plus 7. No, we take one thing, one number, so 2 minus 7 becomes the absolute value of negative 5, and then this one term, negative 5, becomes positive 5. All right, that is absolute value. The next one is adding and subtracting. Real numbers. So when we add and subtract real numbers, please just keep in mind that you need to be just combining things. So for problem number 6, this next example, we're going to write down negative 6 plus, and then parentheses, negative 3. Essentially, we're just adding two negatives together. So when you have something that's negative and then you're making something more negative, that's just going to get to be a larger negative number. So we've got negative 9 as our final answer. I'm going to go ahead and box that up. Problem number 7, we're going to have negative 2.3 plus 5.6. So this 5.6 happens to be bigger than the negative 2.3. So if you wanted to flip-flop the order, you can. And really, it's just 5.6 minus 2.3. But because 5.6 is larger than the negative 2.3, it's going to be a positive number. You get positive 3.3. And if you're confused, you can go ahead and punch that into your calculator. You'll come out with that same positive number. Number 8, we have negative 12 minus 4. So again, we have a negative 12, and then we're taking away 4 from that. So it's a negative number, and we're making it more negative, so it's just going to be an even smaller number. So we've got negative 16 is our final answer. Next up, we're going to go over multiplying and dividing real numbers. So again, this whole first part is real number operations. So we're going to multiply and divide real numbers. Example number 9. And as we have progressed through this video, if at any time you need to pause it to copy it down, please do so. So just go ahead and pause the video whenever you need to copy something down. So for problem number 9, let's start with negative 3, parentheses, negative 9. So again, the parentheses just means multiply. You have 2 negative, and negative times a negative is a positive. So you got 3 times 9, which is positive 27. Number 10, you've got 6 multiplied by negative 9. A positive multiplied by a negative is negative, and we've got negative 9 times 6, which is 54. Negative 54. Problem number 11. So you've got negative 3/4, and we're going to multiply by 2/9. So the way that real number operations work when we are multiplying fractions. When multiplying fractions, you are going to multiply straight across. So straight across. So we've got negative 3 times 2, which is negative 6. Now, because we already did the negative 3, we do not use the negative then on the bottom. So then we've got this 4 multiplied by the 9. So 4 times 9 gets me 36. So we just multiply straight across. Now, I'm just going to take this one step further and reduce it. With the way that negatives work, you could put the negative either on the top or the bottom or in the front. Either way, the entire term is negative. So we're going to reduce this because they're both divisible by 6. So you've got negative 1/6. Example number 12. I'm going to move this down below. For example number 12, I've got negative 9 divided by 0. Now, we're going to have to figure out, when dividing by 0, which one is going to be 0 and which one's going to be undefined. So I'm going to write down example number 13. So you've got 0 divided by negative 12. Okay, so the big thing, I'm going to put this big picture over here. Anytime that you have a number divided by 0, you could think that spells no, all right? N-O, a number divided by 0. Any number divided by 0. No, you cannot do that. It's undefined. Anytime that you have 0 divided by a number, you can think, okay, 0 divided by a number, it's on, which means that you can get to 0, okay? 0 divided by any number is 0. So that is the main difference between those two. A little bit of a way that you can remember this. Okay, so negative 9 divided by 0, a number divided by 0, no, that spells no, a number divided by 0, no, you can't do it, undefined. 0 divided by negative 12, 0 divided by a number, it's on, right? We can do it, we can actually divide, and we get 0. And then finally, number 14, these examples, we're going to do negative 12 divided by 4. All right, so 12 is bigger than 4, which means that we are going to get hopefully a nice reduced whole number. So we get negative 3. Versus if you were to do like 4 over 12, notice 12's bigger, right? 12's bigger and it's on the bottom. So you might think it's 3, but it's not, okay? These are both divisible by 4, so when I divide by 4, I get 1. And then divide by 4 again, and we get 3, 1/3. All right, next up, we've got exponents. So we've got example number 15. So you've got, let's write down 4 cubed. Really, this just means 4 times 4 times 4. All right, 4 times 4 is 16, multiplied by another 4 is 64, and that's our final answer. number 16, we've got negative 6 squared. All right, so anytime that you've got a negative sign and it's inside parentheses, the entire the entire term of 6 is raised to the exponent of 2, the whole thing. So really this is the same as doing negative 6 times negative 6, all right? They're the negative times a negative. In this case, we're going to end up with a positive 36. Now it's this versus, say we have example 17. Let's say I have a negative 6 squared. Now the main difference is that this one doesn't have parentheses around it. So because it doesn't have parentheses around it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry down the negative sign, and we're just doing 6 squared. So 6 squared is 36, and like I said, I brought down the negative sign. So one of them is positive and then one of them is negative. You have to know the difference between these two. Right, number 18, we'll do 4 times 3 squared. Okay, so we're going to do the term that has the exponent first. Do not multiply 4 times 3 and get 12 and then do 12 squared. You're going to get a totally different number. If you think about properties of orders of operations, my bad, orders of operations, parentheses, exponents, all right? You might have seen this before or heard, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, we're using this sort of idea, and there's no parentheses, but there's definitely exponents. So we have to do the exponents first before we multiply. So 3 squared, that's 9, and then you're just going to bring down the 4, and then we can multiply those two together and get 36. And then this is totally different than, we'll say number 19 here. And problem number 19, check this out. I'm going to put parentheses 4 times 3, and then around the whole thing, I'm going to put the exponent. So if you think about order of operations, P parentheses, all right, you have to do what's in parentheses first. In parentheses is multiplication, so I have to do the multiplication. So we've got 4 times 3, which is 12. I'm going to drop down with those parentheses still, right? The whole thing is inside the parentheses. And now I get to square it. So 12 squared, it's a positive number that I'm raising to an exponent, so it's going to stay positive, obviously. The only time that you have to worry about negatives is if there's a negative sign involved, either on the outside or the inside. So we've got 144. All right, so we've kind of gone over then this idea of order of operations. We've only got a couple more examples to do. All right, order of operations. Starting with number 20. So we're going to write out 6 divided by 3 plus 2 cubed times 5. Okay, so we've got parentheses, exponents, and then it's multiply, divide, and then it's add, subtract. Okay, so the multiply and divide, it's whichever one comes first, and for add and subtract, it's again whatever one comes first. So looking through this, there's no parentheses. There is an exponent. So I'm going to write down everything again. So you've got 6 divided by 3 plus, and then 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2, 8, and then times 5. Next step, all right, we're done with the exponents, check. Multiply or divide, okay, whatever one comes first. So going through this, I see 6 divided by 3, that comes first. So I'm going to do that. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and then we've got, I'm just going to drop it all down. All right, I see another multiply, divide. In this case, it's multiply, so I'm going to do that next. So 8 times 5, 40. And you've got them plus the 2, and then we're going to end up with addition, so we've got 42. I've got another example written out here. If this is something that you need for problem number 21, you can go ahead and pause the video and look and see what I did. But we are going to go ahead and finish with the last little piece, and that is when you are given specific numbers that correspond to a variable, and then you're given a problem with those variables and exactly how to plug it in. So I've got X, Y, and Z here, and if for this last problem, we'll call it number 22. Let's say that I have negative 4x squared minus 7y plus 4z. We're going to go ahead and input the numbers where they go. Notice that I used parentheses as I went. Then you're going to use order of operations, working with the parentheses first, and continue on until you get that negative 60.